Are you considering new construction in Williamson County in Tennessee? If so, you're gonna wanna stay tuned because in today's video, I am gonna be talking about the things that you need to know if you are in fact considering going new construction, whether it's in Franklin, Brentwood, or Nolensville. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Martin and I am a local Nashville real estate agent, and I specialize in helping savvy sellers who want to sell right and sell smart, as well as helping out-of-staters looking to relocate to the Middle Tennessee area. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much. Please feel free to click subscribe down below so that you are notified anytime I release new video content. So in today's video, I am talking about the things that you need to know about, you need to consider if you are thinking about doing new construction in Williamson County. So here's the thing, we are going to be diving into 5 main topics today. The first being why you do in fact need your own agent. Number 2, we're going to be talking about the difference between a spec home and a made-to-order home. We're also going to be talking about the financial aspects that you need to consider when going new construction. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about the pros of new construction and the downside of new construction. So all of that is coming up in today's video. So let's not waste any more time and let's dive on in. Okay, so the first thing that we want to talk about is why you do actually need your own agent. Here's the thing, I know a lot of times when you're out looking at model homes, it can be really easy to go in and talk with that builder agent and get information. And a lot of times they're really lovely and friendly. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, that agent, their allegiance is going to ultimately be to the builder and not you. And so while they can be perfectly friendly, they are ultimately representing the interest of the builder. And so you need somebody who's going to represent you as well, because the new construction process can come with a lot of nuances. And if you've never been through the new construction process before, or you've never been through it in Tennessee, there's likely going to be differences from when you went through it before. And so you need to make sure that you have an agent who has been through the new construction process several times so they know the things to ask and the things to advocate for that you might not, those items might not even be on your radar of things for you to consider. So that's why it's really, really important. And a big common myth of why people think they don't need their own agent is because they think they can actually save the cost of commission off that sales price by not having their own agent. And that's not how it works. The builder has the cost of the buyer's agent commission built into their marketing budget. And so it doesn't come off the sales price if you don't have your own representation. So that is myth number 1. So please do not think that you can save money by not having your own representation. Here's the thing. A lot of times, like I said, those builder agents are going to be wonderful. But I've also had other experiences where I had to step in and basically carry the transaction across the finish line because certain things happened. And that doesn't mean that those builder agents or the ones that I am referencing were in any shape bad people. It's just a lot of times they have so many transactions to keep on top of because the community is being built out in large quantities at a time that some things, unfortunately, sometimes things fall through the cracks. And so that's why you also need somebody else who knows what to look for and what to keep an eye on so that things do not veer off the tracks during the process. Also, another benefit of having an agent is they know to ask questions that you wouldn't even think to ask. And a lot of times, again, that'll just come from the agent's experience having gone through the new build process several times. Now, here's the thing. I am going to be talking about the pros and cons in a little bit, but just know I have been through the new construction process several times. I absolutely love it. There is nothing quite like seeing the lot that was chosen and then all of a sudden seeing that brand new home months down the road. It's really kind of wild. Sometimes it feels like it takes forever, but then all of a sudden closing day is there and you look back and you're like, I can't believe it. It's finally here. It's finished. It's amazing. So all of that to say, you definitely want your own representation. And here's something else to keep in mind. Certain builders actually won't work with your agent if you don't bring them on the first appointment or tell them up front at that very first appointment. So that is something to keep in mind. You always do want to make sure that you absolutely have your own representation, because again, you need somebody who's looking out for you and what's happening throughout the entire process, while the builder's agent ultimately is looking out for the builder during the process. Okay, number 2, a spec home versus a made to order or a made to build home. So a spec home is what we are seeing a little bit more of right now in the Williamson County area. That's not to say that you can't pick your own lot within a community and build a floor plan, but we are seeing spec homes because of the way that we've watched the market move over the last 14 months. Things were going so quickly and builders were dealing with supply chain issues that ultimately, in order to still be able to build a house and provide it to the market, a lot of times what they ended up doing was they went ahead and were deciding which floor plans were going on which lot, and they would get the home up into a certain point of completion before releasing it to the market. So when that happens, a spec home most of the time does not allow you to pick your own customizations like cabinet colors, countertops, all floor colors, all of those things. That's a lot of fun during the build process. A spec home, most of the time, the builder's gonna go ahead and have already made those decisions, the floor plan, the exterior elevation, which if you don't know what the elevation is, it's what the front exterior of the home looks like. Because sometimes builders are gonna have the same floor plan but different elevations just to be able to vary up the way that the homes look on the outside. So a lot of times they're gonna have chosen the lot, the floor plan, the elevation, and the interior selections. There are some caveats to that, where sometimes depending on at what point they release it to the open market, there could potentially be the chance that maybe you could tweak some of the interior choices that they've made. However, most of the time I wouldn't bank on that. That's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Now, being the made to order or the made to build, that is where you get to go into a community, you get to select the lot that you want, the floor plan you want, you get to go to the design center and make all of the design choices. You basically get to build the house from the ground up, and it totally becomes customizable to you. That is what the made to order, the made to build home is. Really and truly, that made to order is where you get to just design it, like I said, from the ground up. Now again, there are certain caveats to this where sometimes only certain floor plans will fit on certain lots, but it is something that you find out up front so that you can at least make selections quickly. And as we're talking about spec homes versus, the made to order homes, a couple of things to know. A lot of the builders here in the Middle Tennessee area, you're gonna find that most of them fall into the semi-custom realm, which means that they do have already set floor plans, but you do have the ability to customize that floor plan. Okay, the third thing I wanna talk about is the financial aspect of new construction, because I know a lot of people are curious about this. So first things to consider are, what are the base prices of the homes that you were interested in? That's gonna be the first part. Then you gotta consider upgrades. So here's the thing, when you are walking into those model homes, they are going to be decked out with the upgrades, because guess what? They want you to upgrade too. They want you to spend more money. So you gotta not only consider the base price, but then a good question that your agent should be asking is, how much are people typically allotting for upgrades in their budget? Just so you have an idea, because you don't necessarily want to be the person who over upgrades a home for the community that you're in. So you want to look at the base price, the amount of upgrades. You also want to know, are there lot premiums? Because some lots, if they're bigger lots or in a more desirable location, they will come with lot premiums. Now, in terms of money that goes down up front, generally builders are gonna ask for somewhere between a 5 to 10% deposit, and that can vary, and sometimes that can actually be split up. Sometimes they'll ask for 5% at the time of writing the contract, and then another 5% at maybe, say, your design selections. Sometimes the builder's gonna ask for 10% upfront. It varies from builder to builder. So if you're trying to get an idea of what that financial aspect looks like, just know it's generally somewhere between 5 to 10%. And again, that can vary depending on the builder. Okay, and then the last two things that I wanna talk about are gonna be the pros and cons of new construction, because it does like anything, have both of them. So let's first talk about the pros of new construction. One of the best things about new construction is the fact that it is brand new, which means that everything should be in working order, and all of the major costly repairs, things like roof or foundation issues or a hot water heater, all of those items should be a very long time before you would ever need to fix one of those items, right? Because they are brand new, so it should be a long time. Now, of course, sometimes things happen and those expenses, one of those expenses could come sooner, hopefully not, but those things should be a ways away. So even though you can pay premium for new construction, all of the bigger expenses should come further down the road. Again, another wonderful thing about new construction is that it's customized to you. You're not having to take somebody else's home and make it your own, especially if you were able to make all the selections from the ground up. It's truly customized to you, and it should be move-in ready, and typically it is. And the reason why I say should is because sometimes I know, and this can kind of go in the con pile with new construction, but sometimes certain builder upgrades that you would like to make can come at a premium to the point where it just makes more sense to do a very basic builder grade selection, say maybe in a secondary bathroom that you would love to just give some pizzazz later on, redecorate it later on. So sometimes you may want to just make a very basic builder grade solution and then come back in after closing and then redecorate it to your specific taste, because it's going to be far more wallet friendly, budget friendly to do so versus going with the builder upgrade. And I know sometimes people will just ask for a light bulb to go in certain outlets just so that it's able to pass to get certificate of occupancy, which you need in order to close. Sometimes they'll just do the very basic light bulb up where a fixture should be so that they can then come in later after close and actually put in the fixture that they want, because sometimes to get a builder to put in the fixture you want is going to cost a pretty penny, so it's just easier to do it after closing. But with a new build, it should, for the most part, be customized to you, which makes it far more move-in ready versus having to come in, knock down walls, rip out old carpet. Instead of having to do some of those things that you may have to do with an existing home, your new build home, for the most part, should be ready to rock and roll from the time the moving truck pulls up and starts unloading all of your things. Now, here is something that can certainly fall into the con column when it comes to new construction, and it's something that we've been dealing with a lot, especially over the last 14 months. So I know that we have to talk about it. I can't let you go without discussing this. So what we have been seeing, because as I'm sure you've probably heard, we've been dealing with supply chain issues, obviously the cost of inflation. I know, lumber prices have fluctuated. We've seen them skyrocket before, and all of those things are going to affect pricing when it comes to a new build. And so what we've started to see builders do in order to navigate that is they've added in these clauses into contracts. And the clauses basically say something to the effect of like, hey, we are willing as a builder to eat up to X% of material increase before it gets passed along to you. So sometimes that number is they're willing to eat up to 5% of the rise in cost of materials. Sometimes it's 8%. It kind of depends on builder to builder. But they're basically like, hey, we will absorb those costs, but anything extra, that's going to then fall on you. So what does that mean for you if you are under contract or considering new construction? What it means is, because we've talked about how at the beginning you do have to put down a hefty financial deposit, somewhere between that 5 to 10%. So if you've put that down, you may be wondering, well, what happens if all of a sudden materials skyrocket again and we can no longer afford it? The way the clauses are written, and generally, again, this is going to need to be on a contract by contract basis, and I am not a real estate attorney, so if you ever have questions, feel free to ask one. But basically what those clauses say is that should you not be able to financially afford those costs for the rise in materials, that you do have the right to terminate the contract and get your deposit money back. So that, just know that if that were to be the case, the way that those are generally written is that you do get your deposit back, but then you have to be back on the home search. A couple other things to consider with what we've seen with new construction. So again, that's a big piece to know about right there in terms of those clauses that have been put in. But another thing to consider is just how builders are handling the demand for new construction, because over the last 14 months, we have seen a massive uptick in demand for new construction just because the housing market for existing homes has been bananas, although we are starting to see a slight slowdown. And if you're curious about market conditions, of course, you can go right up here and check out my latest video in terms of what we are seeing in the market as of April and May of 2022. But what we have seen is that sometimes what builders will do is they will put you on a list, because what they've had to do with demand is they've had to say, hey, we can only release 2 lots a month, or we can only write 3 contracts a month, or maybe 4 contracts a month. They have been very limited in the amount that they're able to write, because they're trying to make sure that they don't load themselves up with all these contracts and then become backlogged in actually building the homes. So sometimes it's a matter of getting on their list, and then as soon as lots become available, they start going down their list to whoever is ready to rock and roll, knowing the floor plan, the selections, everything they want. Sometimes it's they will put the lots up on the MLS, and it's a first come first serve, or sometimes they'll ask for any and all bids on those lots, highest and best by a certain point. Sometimes it's by like a Sunday or a Monday, saying, hey, submit your highest and best offer on this lot, and then the highest and best generally is chosen from there. It's going to depend, because as our market continues to shift, of course, builders are going to shift with it, but that's something that we've seen because we've dealt with such high demand. And because we've dealt with it, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about spec homes, sometimes what we are seeing is, in order to help deal with the demand, they are going ahead choosing the floor plan, the elevation, the selections, and then once it's at a certain point, then putting it on the MLS. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you may have the ability to switch some of the designer selections. Other times it's going to be locked in. So that is kind of how they've been dealing with it. But while we do have spec home options, we are also still seeing new communities come to the table where you are going to be able to select your lot, select your floor plan, your elevation, and do all the fun things that comes along with new construction. And this is an ever-changing sector of the housing market. So of course, as things change, I'll continue to update you. But if you are curious about new construction opportunities in Williamson County, primarily in Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville, I do have a new construction list that goes out every month with updates, and of course a long list of different neighborhoods at different price point opportunities. A couple of things, speaking of price points, just know to get a single family home in Williamson County for new construction, it's going to be very slim pickings to get a single family home for under $800,000. Most of the time that price point is going to start at $8 and above. Certain neighborhoods are going to start around that $1 million price point. And again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, of course, in addition to the base price, you're going to want to also be able to budget for the possibility of upgrades if you do end up going for the new construction route. So like I said, if you want to be on our new construction list, it goes out every month. Feel free to click the link below to register for that. If you are thinking about moving to the Middle Tennessee area, myself and my team, we would love to help. We are relocation specialists. You can get all of our contact information below. Again, my name is Caitlin Martin. I'll see you next time.